So great to see all our attendees arriving. Hello, everyone. Hello, Wendy.
Hi.
On behalf of Paraclete Press, welcome to this virtual launch of Good Enough, Learning to Let Go of Perfect for the Sake of Holy by Wendy Nunnery. My name is Rachel McKendry, and I'm the publicist here at Paraclete. We're so honored to have you here today, Wendy. Congratulations on this beautiful book.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
to all of you for joining us. Just a little bit about Wendy. I know a lot of you already know her, but just in case, Wendy Nunnery is the author of multiple novels, a devotional, and of course, Good Enough, Learning to Let Go of Perfect for the Sake of Holy. She is the host of the highly rated So OCD podcast, and her work has appeared in national publications like the Huffington Post and Susie Magazine, as well as a number of popular lifestyle blogs. Born and raised in small town Georgia, Wendy now lives in Atlanta with her husband and their two beautiful children. And she says when she's not reading, drinking coffee, or looking up random relatives on Ancestry, you can find her sitting outside on the porch or binging whatever period drama is currently streaming on Netflix, A Woman After My Own Heart.
True. The Crown is coming out.
So. Oh, I know, I can't wait. For all of you attending here today, if you just take a moment to find the chat button or the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, you're welcome to submit any questions or thoughts you may have for Wendy through our conversation today, and we'll have time for a little Q&A later on. So again, welcome, Wendy. Welcome to all of you. Oh yeah, Mary Beth Morgan says Outlander. Definitely.
Yep. We love
That's
that.
Great.
Yeah,
so I'm so excited to be talking about this beautiful, beautiful book today that so many of us need. And I don't know, I'd love to start, Wendy, by just hearing a little bit more about what it's actually like to write this book, because the things that you write about are so intimate, but I know, just like I did, every woman who reads this book will be able to relate on a deep level with the things that you say here. And I think actually any man, even though they won't have had the exact same experiences, also has their own brand, you know, of so many of the things that you talk about. And I feel like vulnerability is such a buzzword right now, but to actually do it in this way for your new thousands of best friends to read is really something. And I'd just love to hear about what it was like to share all these things on paper.
Yeah, you know, I think it's funny because I have always considered myself something of a compulsive confessor. And I say that in the book. Never really had a problem sharing things. But in the past, a lot of times I would talk about things that were going on in my life, less from a place of vulnerability and still more from a place of perfectionism, where I was trying to get out in front of whatever narrative might be said about me, you know, whatever misunderstanding could happen or anything like that. And so it was always, well, let me just try to make sure that I get out in front of anything that could be said and I kind of control it, right? Let me share what's going on with me or what I was thinking. And then it has moved a lot as I've struggled with my mental health, as I've been a wife for 12 years, I've got 2 kids, and a lot of that has really transitioned my reasoning for sharing things. And that's because I was starting to go through life transitions and experiences that were hard and heavy and beautiful, but tough. You know, motherhood is tough. Marriage can be difficult. All of those things are real and true for so many people. And so I started sharing because I felt compelled to. I felt like I needed to talk about that stuff that was going on in my life. At first, I did that in blog format, like so many people did. And there's a reason why blogs were so popular, I think, because people want to talk about the stuff that's going on and they want to feel like they have community with people who are sharing similar experiences. And so that was really why I wanted to write a book. I had done so much of that on the blog, and I thought, well, I want to turn this into this. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. You talk about, I mean, it's even in the title, the concept of perfect versus holy. And it's so interesting. You know, even in the scriptures, it says, be perfect
Yeah.
You'll think,
Right.
wait, what?
Cool.
How?
No stress. Big deal.
Yeah. So what was it about that? Like, what made you want to actually write about that and spell it out? Or what was it that made you think, I need to write about this and I need to share it with other people too?
I wanted to make the distinction between what we perceive as perfection, what's perfect in our minds, what culture tells us, what church tells us, what people tell us, what we tell ourselves, versus I think how I interpret that scripture as God saying, when you think about John 15:5, where he says, abide in me, right? I'm the vine, you're the branches. So those things are a natural overflow of our relationship with God. And being perfect, I think, is what belongs to us because of our relationship with Jesus and not because of us checking everything off the list. And I say over and over in the book, I'm not disregarding the law. I'm not disregarding the ways that God has asked us to be obedient to him. But what I'm saying is that those things come out of relationship. That stuff shows up in our lives, that obedience, that faithfulness, those moral choices, all of those things that are beneficial to us and the people that are in a relationship with us come out of a healthy relationship with God. And I think so much of, after having kids, it changed a lot about the way that I viewed who God was and what he wanted from me. Yeah. Because for all of my life, it had been being the good girl, being perfect, right thinking, right behavior, right performance. And I think all of us have been in this place at some point in our lives where we realize that if a relationship is performative, it's somewhat of a lie. Yeah. It's not true.
So true. Yep.
If you're performing, whether it's a friendship or it's a spouse or it's your online community, and of course there's a certain level of filter, right? That has to happen.
Absolutely.
There. A lot of that just for wisdom's sake. But if the relationship is performative, then is it really real?
Right.
And if God is asking us to just perform for him, for his love, does he really love us? And I think that he does love us. I know he loves us. He is love. He can't do anything but that. So no, he's not asking us to perform. He's asking us to know him. Yeah.
So true.
And I had learned that in my life and I'm still learning it over and over again. And I just wanted to make that distinction for people.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. It's so true. Yeah. Marianne says such an insightful view. Aren't we all? It's so true. I remember you making reference in, some of our conversations about the colorful language that you use. And I didn't even find it, so colorful the way, and some people might think of it like, oh, this is dangerous, but just honest and just truthful. And like you're saying, not performing, but just saying it like it is. And probably, so many of us feel like we have to clean up our act, or if we're going to tell a story, it has to come out cleanly in the end, and here's what I learned. And your stories are very real and very in process. And I don't know, again, like, even if we all haven't had the exact same experiences, I know that all of us who read this will say, yep, there's me, or I've been there.
So, I think it's like what you said earlier. I do speak a lot directly to women. I am a woman, but I'm talking about this overall view that I think all of us have experienced if we have been in church, and even if we haven't, these expectations that are put on us to be a certain way, men and women, right? To look a certain way, to sound a certain way, to act a certain way, cry, don't cry, whatever it is. And that's harmful. That's harmful to us. And I think that there's something in there that's available to anybody.
For sure. You talk about the power of words. Your words are powerful. What was an early experience for you where you learned that words and language have power?
As you're saying that, this is a fake candle, by the way. I'll be honest. I actually got this. Diary of Anne Frank. This is the actual copy that my parents got for me when I was 11. So this is 24 years old. And as you can see, it looks it. this was that for me. I had seen The Diary of Anne Frank in my elementary school library and was intrigued by it because I thought, who is this girl on the front of this book? I was already a voracious reader and, even wrote my own stories and stuff. So it was intriguing to me. And then I read it and was heartbroken. But I was I was just changed by her experience, by her words, by her insight into what it was like to be a young girl with a family that you love, but also wrestled with falling in love, with fear. And it was obviously a vastly different experience, but there's a reason why people have read this book so much. And it's because we can connect to those things. And because we see a little bit of ourselves in her. And after I read that, I started journaling and regularly, and I kept up with it all the way through college. So, that was it. I mean, she talks about in there, like wanting to go on living after her death. And she did, and her words have changed so many people's lives and have educated so many people. And I was one of those people, and that was really why I started writing the way that I did and started talking about my life, even just to myself, was because of that.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome. In our stories, well, Anne Frank and any of those stories that inspire us, and certainly in your story, there's a lot of pain, and you're very open about pain and the painful experiences that you've walked through. But it's like far from like, oh, this pain that I'm hunkering under, or that, we all share. It's empowering somehow. And I'm wondering about, what is the process like of writing about pain and all of its many manifestations in a way that is helpful for the person reading your words?
That's a really good question. I'm going to borrow a little bit from Beth Moore. I went to a writer's conference last summer and she was there and she spoke about this very thing. She said, there's kind of a scale, when you're in the middle of a really deep, dark place, whatever writing gets done needs to be for you and you alone. And on the other end of that, though, when everything's bright, sunshiny, rainbows and unicorns, there's not that those happy and joyful places aren't worth writing about, but there's a sort of a middle ground, right? Where you are still maybe feeling some of that pain and that joy together. And that's a really beautiful place to write from. And so when I was writing this, it was last fall and I had my son in May, and I share all of those stories about my postpartum depression and what that was like for me. And I was in counseling and I had moved through the really dark parts of that already. And I was over the hardest part. And, that was a really great place for me to write from because it was still fresh, but it wasn't raw in the same way. Yeah. And I had processed through some of those things so that I was able to wisely write them down in a way that was going to benefit people and not just dump my pain onto them. Yeah, I think that's really important.
Mary Beth actually sent in a question last night before the launch. She said, what was the hardest part about staying motivated to write and share such a vulnerable piece of work? Perhaps going back through some of those times, the time you just talked about, but the earlier times too.
Part of it is that I can't help it. I write because it makes me feel alive. It's just what I feel compelled to create, is to write. But it wasn't really difficult for me to stay motivated with it because it's such a therapeutic process, and I enjoy it. I enjoy writing. I enjoy telling stories because I've benefited so much from them from other people. Yeah. So the motivation was, I was thinking about mothers who were pregnant at the time, who may or may not deal with postpartum depression and had no idea that that's coming. I was thinking about men and women who are having intrusive thoughts and have no idea what they are. Don't know really anything about OCD beyond stereotypes that we see. I was thinking about people who love God so much, but feel like they are not getting it right ever. And, that's what I was thinking about, just thinking about those people and hoping that I would be able to share something that would give them just a little bit of release from some of those things.
It seems sharing and writing is really a vocation for you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I've been writing for a long time professionally. I have my own books, but I wrote for a media buying company. I worked for a publisher here in Atlanta. I wrote in college. I did some things for the newspaper and stuff like that. So yeah, it's just a part of who I am. And I'll always do it, even if it's not published. I still keep my journals. I have 15 of them around my house that I pick up, write in, put that down, pick up another one wherever I see it.
Yeah.
It's a part of me.
I love it. I'm thinking about, again, the women and the moms in particular who are going to be reading this book. And the pressures, like as COVID drags on, as everything about politics in the world and tensions are so high and only getting higher, and there's such a pressure to be raising kids a certain way, whether that's from like your friends, your family, whoever, all the people around you, and what's acceptable, what's not, where you have to draw hard lines, where you let your kids learn and discover and come to their own conclusions. What would you say to the moms who are feeling so isolated and on their own in the face of all of that that's happening right now?
Well, the first thing I would say was, we are in this with you. And the truth is that there's not really one right answer, because every family has different children, different parents, different schedules, different jobs, different needs. And it's so easy for us to look around us and think, well, that's working for them, so I should be doing that. But we're all created so differently, and we all need different things, not just the children, but the parents too. And I think I would want them to be able to have grace for that, but it's difficult. We live in a time where there's so much information and so many opinions and so much stuff coming at us all the time that can be really hard to keep at a distance, but yeah, I think that we're all in this. We're all trying to figure it out, and nobody has it figured out. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Nobody has that figured out.
That's so true. You share pictures and stories about your little girl.
Yeah.
But I love to see. Well, first of all, I then it makes me think about you as a little girl and that story in the book about the great softball hit.
Yes.
And I wonder if you would be willing to read part of that story.
Sure.
I love it.
I love that story.
Me too.
Sure. So this is a story from the first chapter, which is called Longing for Home Runs. And I'm just going to pick up right here where this little story begins. Growing up, I was a strong and solid softball player. Strong and solid are the words I've used to describe most of what I've accomplished in life. I am never superb or number one or insanely outrageously talented. I'm strong and solid, reliable, counted upon. I'm neither forgetful nor memorable, but somewhere in between. Above average, I suppose. I will not lie and tell you that I've been satisfied with this outcome. All I ever wanted as a kid was to be the best at something, to impress, to get people clapping on their feet because of the awesomeness with which I succeeded. Succeeding was not satisfactory enough. I wanted to exceed. But on the softball field, as in many other cases, I was simply strong and solid. I will never forget the first time I hit a home run. I was 10 years old and towered over every boy in my grade. My dad, muscular and athletic and very, very patient with me, and my mother, a veritable beast on the softball field, had taught me everything I needed to know about how to hit well. I discovered the trick to hitting the ball where I wanted it to go. But while I was confident in my skills at that point, 3 years of playing recreational softball against the best players in my age group without ever hitting a home run had left me with a bitter taste of jealousy and day-old big league chew in my mouth. The time had come for me to show them what I was worth. It was my last at bat for that game, and our team was ahead. I stepped up to the plate, adjusted my too large helmet, and took my stance with the swagger of a 10-year-old who has a gaggle of teammates screaming her name at various decibel levels. When the pitcher tossed the ball, I stepped forward and swung the bat a half second earlier than normal. This technique ensured what my dad called a sweet spot impact, where the ball pinged beautifully off the near end of the bat and went soaring into left field. It whizzed past both the pitcher's head and the left center's glove and bounced just inside the fence. My skinny horse legs took me well past first base before the outfielders could even reach the ball, and by then everyone on my team was screaming so wildly I felt like Benny the Jet Rodriguez. 10 points if you know what movie that's from. My coach and best friend's father was at third base swinging his arm around in circles and shouting at the top of his lungs for me to keep going. When I rounded third base, I locked eyes with my dad, who had started running from the dugout to meet me at home base. As soon as my foot hit the plate, he scooped me up onto his shoulders and bellowed, "That's my girl," as the rest of my teammates banged on the dugout fence and ran to hug my legs. Sometimes we get lucky enough to have a moment like this, a moment that seems to hover in midair, untouchable and pure. It dazzles like a Disney movie and becomes permanently etched on our minds as the standard to which all other moments should conform. But my Hollywood-style home run was never repeated, even though I remained the strong and solid player I had always been. This was a constant source of frustration for my preteen self, and I gave up on softball when I tired of constantly missing the made-up mark. I moved on to other things like music and cheerleading and track, and experienced the same frustration with them. I was smart. I could do a back handspring. I was a surprisingly skilled high jumper. I had an array of mid-level talents that served me well, but never took me anywhere I thought worth mentioning for too long. In short, I wasted a lot of time and energy not enjoying my success because I was so occupied by my perceived lack. I hit a lot of doubles and triples, but all I wanted was home runs. At first glance, the rules seemed simple enough. The church does a pretty good job of fitting stuff into boxes, even when it wasn't designed to fit. And we often begin our faith walk with what feels like a firm grasp on all that's expected of us. We cut out the obviously yucky stuff like too much alcohol or sex with people who don't care about us and attend church on a regular basis. We volunteer and make new friends and join a small group. We hit some home runs. Maybe we hit lots of them. But somewhere along the way, we come face to face with the reality that what seems easy is really just new and exciting. The bright hope of transformation begins to wane, and we look at the people who surround us and think, am I the only one who's struggling? We fall victim to our sin and stumble back into patterns of behavior that harm us. We realize that the joy of knowing Jesus doesn't eliminate suffering. We find ourselves thinking, like the Apostle Paul, I do not understand what I do. For what I want to do, I do not do, but what I hate, I do. I have a friend from college whose love for Jesus is so evident that it seems to circle her body with light. And for a long time, I envied her to the point that it was like an ache. I had been a Christian since childhood, and there was so much to be grateful for in my life. But she appeared to be on a whole other level in her relationship with the Lord, and I was desperate for what she appeared to have. I was missing something, only I wasn't sure what it was at the time. I had wonderful friends, a school I loved, strong family support, and a clear conscience. I was doing everything right as I had been taught to perceive rightness. So where did this longing come from? Why did I still feel like it would never be enough? Later, when I began to confront how the rules had influenced my view of God, I understood that trying to follow them without fail had exhausted me and some of the people I loved most. That was the start of a new season for me, a season of questioning the rules that had been presented to me from birth and learning that there was something far richer to be experienced on the other side. Let me be clear. I believe that rules matter. Rules are guides to point us toward home to the God who saved us. They are not the beginning and end of our faith, however, and they never should be. The rules are important to our understanding of history. They are necessary for contemplative study of scripture, prayer, and personal growth. The rules are vital to our understanding of the King, but They are not the king.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I love that.
My mouth is a little dry.
A couple questions coming in here. Mary Beth asks, how do you carry the good enough attitude into your everyday life when it's hard to remember?
Oh, gosh. I think I have a lot of tools. I have a pretty strong community around me. I'm in therapy. I'm on medication. It's taken a lot of practice and a lot of years of recognizing the things that make me feel not good enough. And so much of that is just this inner critic, that I've carried with me my whole life.
Yep.
And therapy's been one of those things that has helped me to recognize when it's my inner critic talking and not actually God or myself, and learning to distinguish between those things instead of just listening to it and going, oh, well, that must be true because I'm thinking it. Or, and I have spent a lot of my time realizing in recent years that some people don't really have that same kind of inner critic in their mind. And I thought that was so normal. And we all have it to some degree. But mine, a lot of times, is actually connected to having obsessive-compulsive disorder.
Yeah.
And I've had to recognize that, oh, okay, that's actually this separate thing over here. And how can I either, recognize maybe where that's coming from and ask myself, why is that happening? Oh, maybe that's rooted in something deeper, or say, oh, okay, I see you, and go on. So therapy, having a really strong faith foundation, those have been really big things. I have a tattoo on my arm, if you can see it there. It says remember, and that's actually my husband's handwriting. It's something that he said to me when I was having a really hard time. One time I was just crying and I said, I feel like I don't even know who I am anymore. And he said, well, that's okay, because if you forget, I remember. So for me, it's been a lot of people who have helped me. It really has been. I think that God has just revealed himself to me through people more than anything else.
Here's a question from Peyton. She says, my therapist has told me to give myself a daily mantra to speak into the OCD thoughts and lies. Do you have a sort of mantra that you use?
Oh, I feel like I've had a lot. I've sort of cycled through them. I don't really have a particular one.
But it sounds almost like this reminder.
And I think a lot of it too is just that now I have so much knowledge about the physiological parts of OCD, the fact that it is an actual illness, that there's something that's actually happening to my physical body, and the understanding of that has been really helpful for me, because I can now recognize it for what it is and not ignore it, but just learn to live with it in a way that's healthy. Like I said, looking at it and going, oh, I see you. I know you're there and you're going to hang out, but I'm not going to engage with you the way that you want me to.
Again, not all of us experience those exact same things. Not all of us have a therapist, but you've written a fantastic sort of group discussion guide for this book. And I think, like, as amazing as it is, even just to read this book on my own, to be able to talk about it with you, to read this book in a group, I think could be such a powerful and unifying experience for a group of women, or whoever wants to read it together. So I just would love to draw that to all of your attention who are here today. It's available on the Paraclete website, or you could get in touch if you're having a hard time finding it. But if you can't have Wendy with you to talk you through the book, this is the next best thing. And I really would recommend it, because, Mary Beth asked, how do you put this good enough attitude into your everyday life? And there's just a lot of wisdom and practical guidance from Wendy here in this guide. So I would really recommend it.
And I do. I know I talk a lot about, I have been mentioning therapy a lot in the last few minutes, but that's just one thing. I think she has been really crucial for me helping to understand what my mental illness is. But in terms of having a place to share that and to be open and talk about it, it has been in relationship with friends and with family and with my spouse. Safe places where I can be completely open about what's going on without the, like you said, the pretty bow that gets, tied up. Sometimes we'll put that on social media, but, being able to have relationships with people and say, I don't even necessarily want to be fixed right now. I just need to be able to come to you with something and have you be present with me. And that's, that's so valuable. And so, like you said, that's what that reading discussion guide is for, to kind of help draw out some of those things in a group discussion with friends or small group or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Get you guys, talking about some of that stuff so that you can bear each other's burdens the way that you need to.
I love in the book how you talk about the fact that you belong to this sort of mega church, but you've still been able to find and invest in that very personal community. And I bet that's something that a lot of people, if they haven't found it, what would you say? How do you go about finding those friends or that group?
Oh gosh, I think one of and this is what's difficult about living in a pandemic, is that I would say, go to places where you love to be, right? And try to connect with people who are there, who also love to be there, whether it's church or just a cool place that you go to hang out. But we're in such a difficult time right now, where people can't really go and do and be a part of the things that they were before. Gosh, that's honestly, I don't really know the answer to that question. I wish that I had a better answer. I have a lot of friends that are either from childhood or from college. But with our small group, that was also sort of manufactured in the church environment. That was something that, because they know that small groups and doing that kind of stuff one-on-one is so valuable. They do events like that twice a year so that people can go and meet and hang out. But that's really difficult. I think something else could be to find people online that are sharing and talking about things that matter to you, that connect with you. That's how I have found actually some of the people who endorse my book, Rachel and Taylor, both of them, I found that way just by being on Instagram, and saw that they were just the kind of women who were writing in real ways and talking about things and advocating for stuff that was very important to me. And they were also funny and snarky, and I loved that. And so I just started liking their stuff and engaging with them. And now I feel like I have established some real friendships with them. And I think that can be the really beautiful part of being online and having social media, is that we can be connected when we can't be physically connected.
It's so true. I always joke about, like, I'm just 42, but sometimes I'm still so excited about, we're on Zoom and you're in Georgia and I'm on Cape Cod, and who knows where everybody's from. I think we have people from all over the US at this launch, and that just amazes me. I think if there's any gifts that COVID has given us, this is one of the unexpected blessings.
That's true.
That I've really enjoyed.
Me too. Yeah, it's been so interesting to try and release a book when we can't go anywhere or really do anything. I was supposed to come up there in March.
I know.
And the week before I was supposed to come, everything shut down. And so a lot, all this process has been us talking on the phone and doing Zoom and emails and that kind of thing. And it's still been really beautiful. Yeah.
We'll get you here someday, I promise.
Oh, I can't wait.
We have to.
I'm an ocean girl. I love ocean. I went to college near coastal Georgia. So I spent a lot of time there, and oh my gosh, I can't wait. I know it's beautiful. It looks beautiful.
It is. We're lucky. I was thinking back to what you were saying about rules and yourself as a little girl. And again, you're a little girl, and you teach your kids right from wrong, and they grow up, and things change, and things change for us, and our perspectives change. But as your kids grow older, and want to push the envelope.
Yeah.
How do you see yourself finding a balance between following those rules? You know, obviously you're going to teach them about Jesus, but then like letting them really find that relationship for themselves, knowing there will be mistakes, good choices, bad choices, knowing the love of Jesus through all of it. I mean, I think that's another challenge.
Yeah.
How do you see that?
Oh gosh. You know, those are concerns I have, especially as somebody who's still, I mean, I default towards perfectionism, you know, and I have to be really mindful about that when I'm with my daughter. And, you know, my son's so tiny, but as he gets older, that's going to be a reality in our relationship too. So I wrestle with that a lot. I think about that a lot already. And I think the most important thing that I can do is just make space for my kids to be able to talk to me as much as possible, and to say over and over to them and try to model for them what I've learned about who God is with us is, you are safe to come and talk to me, even if you have completely messed up, even if something is all your fault. You know, you can come and talk to me. And I've tried to model that in my relationship with her by listening instead of just reacting, by taking some time to respond, because it's very, very easy. We've all been through this. We've had it happen to us. We've done it to people. It's very easy to make people do this with our reactions. And so that's something I've learned from my mom, who has, you know, advanced degrees in psychology. She's talked to me a lot about trying to make space for my kids to be able to be who they are and take some time before responding, even if I feel stuff rise up in me, because I will, right? We're going to have responses to things, and we're going to have knee-jerk reactions. So it's just trying to remember that, you know, there's nothing that they can do that's going to make me not love them. And whatever it is, we can work through it. If it's questions about faith, if it's actually something that's happening, you know, in a certain environment, maybe school or friends or whatever. Yeah, the most important thing is I just want to make them feel like they can be safe to talk to me.
It's almost like if we could just treat ourselves that way too.
Right. Right. I feel like I'm so much better at it with other people, but I struggle to have grace for myself at all. Even if my rational mind is saying, you are a human being, this is a normal response to this, I want to come down on myself for ever getting angry, you know, instead of saying, well, how can I process through this anger and use it in a way that moves me towards something healthier. I'm like, well, how dare you even feel that at all, as though God didn't give me that emotion.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
it's
so true.
It's hard. It can be really hard.
Do you feel like writing for you is also sort of a way to do that, to help yourself see it and work through it with the Lord? Really?
Yes. I feel like there's been a lot of times where that is where clarity comes for me, is in writing, because I'm writing to process something. I'm also writing to God. And sometimes it'll be as I'm writing, where it's almost like what I'm writing will change, because I feel like the Spirit is telling me something, teaching me something. And sometimes it's in going back and looking at it and rereading it. But yeah, for sure. That's absolutely a way that I work things out with God. And because when you get it out and you can see it in front of you, and it's not just up here doing this, it makes a difference. It does, for me anyway.
Yeah. If there is like one distilled message from your book that you would want to share with everyone who reads it, what would that be?
That you already have everything you need to be the person that God made you to be, that he is there with you, and that's his job to cultivate that in you. I mean, of course we have work to do, right? We have choices to make. But God he is going to be the one that refines us and sanctifies us. We can't do that by ourselves. And I used to get really discouraged by that. I used to think, God, I'll never get this right. And And now I'm coming to realize and still having to learn over and over again that I don't have to. That I need to draw near to God and he will draw near to me. And that's what I want to focus on, is just trying to rest in him. And that can be so different in everybody's life. It's not going to be the same for me that it would be for somebody else, but just sort of doing more of this in a way that's healthy, by looking at Christ instead of going, well, I've got to be kind and I've got to be gracious and I've got to be, hardworking and I've got to be patient and I've got to be all of these other things. It's doing this and looking at Jesus and just going, okay, and this is sort of silly, but there's a reason why those "What Would Jesus Do" bracelets were so popular.
Yeah.
It's because it is a very simplified message of, what would Jesus do in this moment? Not how can I be perfect and how can I earn things, but just, God, give me the wisdom to be able to respond in love here in this moment.
Yeah.
That's what I want. I want people to be able to do that and to let some of those other things fall to the wayside. Yeah.
So good. Oh, this is good. Martha Donahue says, thank you for all these tools for the mind and soul. She's from Guadalajara, Mexico.
Oh, very nice. Thank you so much for saying that. And I'm glad it's been helpful.
And Mary Strunk is here from Glenside, Pennsylvania.
Cool. Oh, I bet it's beautiful in Pennsylvania.
Here is another question from Mary Beth. She says, what is next? Or what would be your dream project to create?
Oh my gosh. Well, to answer the last part of the question, I honestly don't know what my dream project would be to create. Well, I've always wanted to have a bookstore. I don't know that I have the business skills for that. I have the love, so maybe I could have a partner.
Find a good partner, yeah.
Find a partner. They can run the business side, and I will just be out there with all of the books and the customers. So that's something that I would love to do. Is in terms of a writing project, I've got a bunch of stuff bouncing around in my head already, because by the time a book comes out, an author has been with that content for quite a long time. And I started in fiction. I had 2 young adult novels. I love to read fiction probably more than anything. I have ideas for a magical realism novel. I have another idea for nonfiction, but I think in terms of what I actually want to be putting out, I want to be writing about real life. I want to be writing nonfiction. So I have sort of a travel memoir idea in mind too. We'll see. I don't know yet. Right now, this is it. This is my focus right here. This baby.
I'm so glad you said that. So interestingly, Stephanie Emmons, who is another author of ours, who we just released her memoir about working with Mother Teresa, believe it or not. She says she's really looking forward to reading your book. And it's reminding me that we have to celebrate good enough. And we have other spiritual memoirs. Anyway, we have a special today. If you use the coupon code memoir on the Paraclete website, you'll get 10% off Good Enough and all of our spiritual memoirs. So hearing you talk about what writing has done for you, obviously when we read your story and Stephanie's story and so many other stories, it's like you're talking about how you see God in other people. Like we can all meet Jesus there when we open ourselves up. And I don't know, more and more memoir. And maybe again, it's because of COVID, we're sort of alone with our thoughts, hopefully alone with Jesus. Is a time to be open to sharing that, or maybe just working through it for yourself. You know what I mean? So anyway, all to say, 10% off if you use the code memoir on all of our memoirs. So I'm going to try my best to share that collection with you right now in the chat bar. There it is. If you take a look at the chat bar, everybody, you can see that. Anyway, so interesting.
Please go get a copy. I would love that. That would mean so much to me.
And we do discounts on bulk purchases too. So again, just to remind you about that beautiful discussion guide, if it's something you want to consider for your book club or your church group, all of which can meet online since so many of us are not yet meeting in person.
Yeah.
I just really, really recommend it. It's such a great book to read with a group.
Thank you. Yeah, I've had some friends of mine, actually, part of my Thursday church, who I mentioned in the book, my old small group. A couple of them actually had gotten together on Zoom or something to read through the discussion guide after they'd gotten their copy. Yeah, they were starting that. So I thought that was really wonderful to know that they were doing that, you know, on their own time.
Love it. Anyone has any more questions or thoughts to share with Wendy, please feel free. And if not, I think that we're just about ready to wrap things up. But anyway, Wendy, thank you so, so much for this book and every single story and word that you share. It's a real spiritual encouragement, and it's so real, and it certainly met me, and I pray everyone who reads it right where we all need it. So thank you for your bravery and your generosity and sharing Jesus through your words. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rachel. And thanks to everybody there for all that you guys have done. I know this has been a crazy time and we haven't been able to meet each other in person, but I'm so grateful for you guys and how you've worked on my behalf and behalf of this book. It means the world.
Our privilege.
Thank you.
We have been live streaming on Facebook, and a recording of our conversation will be available on YouTube later today. So any of your friends who wanted to be here and couldn't, please feel free to share it with them, and we'll certainly share it too. And again, just to remind you to honor Wendy, to celebrate this new book, all of our spiritual memoirs are available from paracletepress.com for 10% off. Just use the coupon code MEMOIR at checkout. And again, with that wonderful discussion guide in mind, just please consider gifting good enough to friends and family, your book club, perhaps any small group that you might belong to at church or at school. And your generosity will help support our authors and the mission of Paraclete Press and our ongoing work and providing events like this one. And of course, we really encourage you to support your local booksellers too. Wendy's book and all of our books are widely available. And if your local bookstore doesn't happen to carry, you can always ask them to special order from Paraclete, and we'll be happy to help them out. Yes, Katie, our technical host, is also reminding me that if you are interested in self-publishing your own memoir, please let us know. Paraclete Multimedia offers self-publishing services. We have a fantastic design team, and we would be happy to help you with that. We hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as we did today. Thank you again so much, Wendy. Thank you to all of you for attending. And our prayers are with you all around the world for health and safety. And we hope you'll join us for more of these times together with our authors. Our calendar of online events is available on our website, paracletepress.com. Thanks again, Wendy. God bless you and your beautiful family.
Thank you so much. To you too.
We're so happy for you. Happy birthday, good enough.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody. And please take care, and we hope to see you again.